In this video, I want to take a look at a game against Clark. Again, not his real name. In the previous video that I did against him, I lost that game. So in this video, I'm going to show a game where I won. And it was actually a pretty smooth win. So we have a Philidor Defence. And my opponent goes d3, which is not the most ambitious way to play. I went bishop e7, although c6 is an interesting alternative. And here you can actually take on b5. The point is you cannot take the knight because you drop the rook. So the bishop can go back. Again, you cannot take the knight because, again, the same reason. And if you go queen check, the knight comes back. And here you can even sacrifice the other knight. And this position is actually better for white. But instead we have this position. Here my opponent could have played a3, which I think is a pretty good move because it gives the bishop a square on a2, which because the pawn is on f5. If you maintain control of this diagonal, then it's going to be impossible for the black king to castle kingside, which means that the only thing left would be to castle queenside. So that's good to know. And well, if you can delay castle for several moves, then d4 would break open the center and this king would just be in trouble. So I attack the bishop, and here my opponent just blundered. Better is just to take the knight on g8. And well, after this, I think black should be at least equal. Here I castled, but I could have played this move b4, which is actually a very good move. The point is that, well, you have to go, the engines say that this is the best move, knight e4, just giving up a pawn, because the alternative would be to go back to b1, which looks pretty ridiculous, and then you eventually want to reroute the knight to the e2 square, but that takes a lot of time. And well, you could try to go back to, or you can go to a4, but the knight is just misplaced on a4. So engines say that just giving up the pawn is better. And here my opponent plays bishop e3, which is a very simple threat of capturing the pawn. So queen c7. Again, I could have played b4. If the knight goes back, I can push and push again. And yeah, I mean, this knight just looks awful. So knight c1 to try to bring the knight to a more active square. And this position is just really good for black, which makes sense. You have all this space. And well, now my opponent just blundered, which is something that I've seen when I'm playing online quite a bit. I've seen this surprising number of times. f4 just wins the bishop. And here I could have played knight g4, which is a much better move. The point is, after this, you have potentially the threat of pushing the pawn followed by capturing the knight, and then you take on h2. So let's say you push to make a bad move, takes, and this is just completely winning for black, as you can see. And well, here the engines suggest this move, knight e5, and well, I thought, why knight e5? And that gave me the idea, well, why don't you just sacrifice the rook on f3 first and then put the knight on e5. You obviously have a threat of taking on f3 with check, which would win the queen. You've opened up this file, so now this king's a little bit more exposed. These pawns are potentially weak, and even though it's not one of the top 3 moves, you know, sacrificing the rook still leaves black, you know, with a -2 advantage. So my opponent goes back. I trade pieces because, well, I just want to simplify the position since I'm up a piece. Here my opponent played this move, which I did not like. You're just allowing me to just exchange more pieces because you've just walked into a pin. And here the engines wanted to take with the g pawn, because after this you have bishop h4, which is slightly better than my move, but it's the same idea basically. It doesn't make that much of a difference. Bishop h4 also wins this pawn. My opponent just went queen h3, but the idea is, well, you sacrifice the queen, and well, in this variation the pawn is still here, whereas if you go bishop h4, you manage to take this pawn and the king is on f2, so slight improvement. But when you're up a piece, it doesn't really matter. And now queen h3 is just blunder, check, and I took. And well, my opponent thought he was being clever by playing this move, but that's just another blunder because, well, queen f1 would be checkmate, and there's no way for the queen to retreat and defend f1, so you have to exchange queens. And well, here my opponent resigned because, you know, even though you win the bishop, you're still down a rook. Anyway, I hope that you liked the video, and if you did, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to share and subscribe if you haven't already. And thank you for watching.